22 years of marriage ended the moment I walked through that door. She wasn't sorry. She was annoyed I'd found out. I said nothing and left. By sunrise, I'd cut every connection. Then someone called me with information that turned everything into something much darker. My name is Brandon Hayes. I'm 44 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I'm a senior consultant and co-owner of Hayes Kingsley Management Consulting, a firm I built from the ground up with my college buddy Brett Kingsley. We met freshman year at UT Austin, became inseparable, and after graduation, we decided to go into business together. For 20 years, we've been helping mid-sized companies streamline operations, cut costs, and maximize efficiency. The business has been good to us, really good. We've got offices in Dallas and Houston, 15 full-time consultants on staff, and a client roster that reads like a who's who of Texas industry. I met Miranda at a charity gala 23 years ago. She was working as an accountant for a nonprofit, sharp as a tack, beautiful in a way that didn't need announcing. She had this quiet confidence that drew me in. We dated for 6 months before I proposed, got married at a small ceremony in Hill Country, and 3 years later, our son Owen was born. When he turned 2, Miranda joined our firm as financial controller. It made sense at the time. She knew numbers. I trusted her completely, and having her manage the books meant one less thing to worry about. Brett thought it was a great idea too. Keep in the family, he said, clapping me on the back. Owen just started his freshman year at Texas A&M, studying business. Smart kid, good head on his shoulders. We'd saved for years to make sure he wouldn't graduate buried in debt. Everything seemed to be falling into place. 3 weeks ago, I came home early. We just closed a massive contract with a manufacturing client outside San Antonio, and my partner Brett suggested we call it a day, grab some drinks to celebrate. I told him I'd take a rain check, wanted to surprise Miranda at home, maybe take her out for dinner. I stopped at a jewelry store on the way, something I've been planning for months. Tucked inside my jacket pocket was a small velvet box. Inside that box was a sapphire ring, custom-made, an anniversary gift. Not just any ring, though. It had belonged to my grandmother, reset with a new band and engraving. 22 years together deserved something meaningful. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. Miranda's car was in the driveway, but I didn't hear music or the TV. I set my briefcase down by the door, slipped off my shoes, and called her name. Nothing. Then I heard it, muffled sounds coming from upstairs. At first, I thought maybe she was on a work call, her voice low and urgent. But as I climbed the stairs, the sounds became clearer. Laughter, heavy breathing, the unmistakable rhythm of something I didn't want to acknowledge. I stood outside our bedroom door for what felt like an eternity, my hand hovering over the doorknob. Part of me wanted to turn around, walk back down those stairs, and pretend I'd never come home early. But I couldn't. I pushed the door open. Miranda was in our bed, tangled up with someone I knew all too well. Brett Kingsley, my business partner, my best friend for over 20 years. The man who'd been best man at our wedding. The man who was Owen's godfather. They both froze. Brett scrambled for his clothes, stammering something incoherent. Miranda just stared at me, not with shame or guilt, but with irritation. Like I'd walked in on her yoga session instead of destroying the foundation of our entire life together. Brandon, she said flatly, pulling the sheet up. You're home early. I couldn't speak. My throat felt like it was closing. I just stood there, staring, the velvet box still in my pocket, feeling heavier than it should. It was just once. Get over it. Miranda snapped, her voice cold and dismissive. Brett finally found his voice. Man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this. Shut up, Brett, she cut him off. Then she looked back at me, and what she said next is something I'll never forget. She smirked, actually smirked, and said, He's better in bed anyway. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I simply nodded, turned around, and walked out. I don't remember getting into my car. One moment I was standing in that doorway. The next I was behind the wheel, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The velvet box was still in my jacket pocket, pressing against my ribs like a knife. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. The streets of Dallas blurred past me. Traffic lights, storefronts, other cars, all of it meaningless. My mind kept replaying the scene over and over. Miranda's face, that smirk, the coldness in her voice. Brett scrambling for his pants like a teenager caught by his parents. 22 years. 22 years of marriage, of building a life together, of trusting her with everything I had. And she threw it away like it was nothing. My phone started buzzing in the cup holder. I glanced down. Miranda. Then Brett. Then Miranda again. I ignored them all. What could they possibly say that would make any of this better? That it was a mistake? That they were sorry? Miranda had already made it clear she wasn't sorry. She was annoyed that I caught them. I pulled into the parking lot of a shopping center and just sat there, engine running, staring at nothing. A woman walked past with a stroller. A couple came out of a restaurant laughing. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that someone's entire world had just collapsed a few feet away from them. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text. I told myself not to look, but I did anyway. It was from Miranda. We need to talk. Come back home. I almost laughed. Come back home. Like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Like I was the one who needed to explain myself. Then another text came through, this time for Brett. Man, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Call me. I deleted both messages without responding. Eventually, I started driving again. I didn't have a destination in mind until I found myself pulling up in front of a small house in East Dallas. My friend Eric lived here. We'd known each other since high school, stayed close even though life had pulled us in different directions. He was one of the few people I could trust, one of the few people who wouldn't judge me or try to fix things before I was ready. I knocked on the door. Eric opened it, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without a word. That's the thing about real friends. They know when to talk and when to just let you exist. Guest room's ready, Eric said quietly, heading toward the kitchen. I'll grab you a beer. I walked into the guest room and sat on the edge of the bed. The room was simple, clean, nothing like the master bedroom I'd shared with Miranda for over 2 decades. I pulled the velvet box out of my jacket and set it on the nightstand. The sapphire caught the light from the window, shimmering like it didn't know it was about to become the most expensive reminder of my stupidity. Eric came in with 2 beers, handed me one, and sat down in the chair across from me. You don't have to talk about it, he said. She was with Brett. I said, my voice coming out flat and distant, like it belonged to someone else. In our bed. Eric didn't say anything. He just nodded, took a long drink from his beer, and stayed. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every sign I'd missed, every lie I believed. By morning, the numbness had started to harden into something else. Not rage. Not yet. Just a cold, clear certainty that everything was about to change. The morning light came through the blinds in Eric's guest room, but I'd already been awake for hours. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since 6 in the morning. Miranda. Brett. Miranda again. I let every call go to voicemail. Whatever they had to say, I didn't want to hear it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Around 8, I finally got up, showered, and borrowed a clean shirt from Eric. He was already in the kitchen, making coffee when I came downstairs. Sleep at all? Eric asked, handing me a mug. Not really, I said, taking a long sip. The coffee was strong, bitter, exactly what I needed. He nodded, didn't push. That's what I appreciated about him. He knew when to give space and when to just exist in the same room without filling it with meaningless words. I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out my laptop. If Miranda and Brett thought I was going to fall apart, they were wrong. I'd spent 2 decades building a business, managing crises, solving problems that seemed impossible. This was just another problem. A devastating one, sure, but still solvable. And I'd learned a long time ago that the best way to handle a crisis was to take action, to control what you could control. First things first, money. I logged into our joint bank account, the one Miranda and I had shared for years. My name was the primary account holder. I'd set it up that way back when we first got married because I handled all the finances. I transferred half the balance, about $43,000, into a separate account I'd opened online that morning, one she had no access to. The other half could stay for now. I wasn't trying to leave her destitute. I was just protecting myself. Then I changed the passwords on every account I could think of. Bank accounts, credit cards, investment portfolios, everything. Every time I hit the confirm button, it felt like cutting another thread that had tied us together. Next, I called our landlord. The lease on our house was in my name only. Miranda had sketchy credit when we first moved in together years ago, back when she had some student loan issues she'd never quite resolved, so I'd handled all the paperwork. I explained the situation briefly, professionally, kept emotion out of it. He was understanding, told me there'd be a fee for early termination, about 2 months' rent. I paid it on the spot over the phone using my credit card. Done. Then came the utilities. Electric, water, gas, internet, all my name. I called each company, went through the automated systems, finally got to real people, and scheduled disconnections for the end of the week. If Miranda wanted to keep the lights on, she could figure it out herself. She had a job. She had access to money. She'd manage. I moved on to credit cards. Miranda was an authorized user on 2 of my cards, a Visa and an American Express. I called both banks and had her removed from both accounts. She'd been using them for months, groceries, shopping, spa days, yoga classes, probably gifts for Brett too. That ended today. I checked the recent transactions while I was on the phone with the credit card companies. Hotel charges in Dallas from dates I'd been out of town. Expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. A jewelry purchase from 3 weeks ago. My stomach turned. By noon, I'd severed every financial tie I could think of. Every click, every phone call, every confirmation email felt like peeling off a layer of dead skin. I wasn't being petty. I was being smart. She'd betrayed me, destroyed our marriage, and now she'd have to face the consequences of her choices. I'd given her 22 years of my life, my trust, my loyalty. She'd given me lies. Eric watched me work from across the room, sipping his coffee. "You're handling this better than I would," Eric said quietly. "I'm not handling it," I replied, closing my laptop and rubbing my eyes. "I'm surviving it. There's a difference." My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Owen, my son. "Dad, where are you? Mom's freaking out. What's going on? She said you left and won't answer her calls." My chest tightened. Owen didn't know yet. He was still at college, probably focused on classes and football games and figuring out his major, living the life of a normal 18-year-old. I didn't want to drag him into this mess. Not yet. But I also wasn't going to lie to him. I typed back, "I'm fine. Staying with Uncle Eric for a few days. I'll call you soon. Don't worry about me. Focus on your classes." He responded immediately. "Mom said you guys are fighting. She's really upset." "What happened?" "Fighting." That's what she told him. Like this was some minor argument about loading the dishwasher wrong or forgetting to take out the trash, something that would blow over in a few days. I stare at my phone, try to figure out what to say. How do you tell your son that his mother destroyed your family? That she'd been sleeping with his godfather? That the people he trusted most in the world had betrayed everything? Before I could respond, another message came through, this time from Miranda. "You need to come home. We can fix this. Don't be dramatic. You're overreacting." Dramatic. That word made my blood boil. I'd walked in on her in bed with my best friend, with my business partner, with the man who'd stood next to me at our wedding and promised to support our marriage. And she thought I was being dramatic. She thought I was overreacting. Another text followed. "Think about Owen. Think about our family. Don't throw away everything we built over one mistake." One mistake. She kept using that phrase like it absolved her of everything. I turned off my phone and set it face down on the table. I couldn't deal with this right now. I needed to think clearly, needed to plan my next moves without her voice in my head. "I need to go back to the house," I said to Eric. "Get my things before she does something stupid like change the locks or throw my stuff out." Eric nodded, setting down his mug. "Want me to come with you?" "Yeah," I said. "I think I do. I don't trust myself to stay calm if she's there." Eric grabbed his keys. "Let's go then." We drove to the house in silence. Eric didn't try to fill the quiet with useless platitudes or advice. He just drove, occasionally glancing over at me to make sure I was holding it together. I was barely. My hands were clenched in my lap, my jaw tight, my mind racing through everything I needed to grab, everything I needed to protect. When we pulled into the driveway, Miranda's car was gone. Good. I wasn't ready to face her yet, and I didn't trust myself not to say something I'd regret. Or worse, not to break down completely. Eric parked on the street, and we walked up to the front door together. I still had my key. It slid into the lock like always, turned smoothly, and the door opened easily. Everything looked the same. The furniture we'd picked out together at that overpriced store in uptown Dallas. The photos on the walls, snapshots of a life that no longer existed. Our wedding photo hung above the fireplace, both of us smiling like we meant it, like we believed in forever. I walked past it without looking too closely. I couldn't stomach it right now. "I'll be quick," I said to Eric, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. Just need my clothes, laptop, some documents. Eric nodded and stayed near the door, keeping watch in case Miranda came back. Take your time. I've got your back. I went upstairs to the bedroom. The bed was made, sheets changed, pillows fluffed like she was trying to erase what had happened. Like changing the sheets could somehow cleanse the memory of what I'd seen. I opened the closet and started pulling out clothes, shoving them into a duffel bag I found on the top shelf. Shirts, pants, shoes, anything I need for the next few weeks while I figured out where I was going to live, what I was going to do next. I grabbed my laptop from the desk in the corner, the one I used for work when I brought things home. I unplugged the charger, tossed it all into a box I found in the garage earlier. Then I went to my filing cabinet and pulled out important documents: birth certificate, passport, tax returns, business contracts, everything I might need if this turned ugly. And it would turn ugly. I was sure of it. Then I went to the closet where I'd hidden the ring. The shoebox was still there, pushed to the back under my winter coats, exactly where I'd left it months ago. I pulled it out and opened it, already knowing what I'd find but hoping somehow I was wrong. Empty. My stomach dropped. I rifled through the closet, checking every box, every drawer, every shelf, every pocket of every coat. Nothing. The ring was gone. My grandmother's ring, the one she'd worn for 50 years, the one she'd passed to me on her deathbed with tears in her eyes, telling me to give it to someone who deserved it, someone who would cherish it the way my grandfather had cherished her. Then I saw it. A receipt, tucked into the corner of the closet floor, half hidden under a pair of her running shoes. I picked it up and read it. My hand started to shake. A+ Pawn Shop, 2847, Commerce Street. 1 sapphire ring, platinum band, estate piece. $450. $450. That's what my grandmother's ring was worth to her. That's what 22 years of marriage was worth. That's what my love, my trust, my loyalty was worth. $450 and a few afternoons in bed with my best friend. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the receipt, feeling something inside me harden even further. This wasn't just betrayal. This was cruelty. This was her taking everything I'd valued, everything I'd cherished, and turning it into cash so she could fund her affair. I shoved the receipt into my pocket and finished packing, moving faster now, driven by something colder than anger. Anger burns hot and fades. This was different. This was ice. Before I left, I did one more thing. I went to the kitchen, grabbed a notepad from the drawer where Miranda kept her grocery lists and reminder notes, and scrawled a quick message in my handwriting. Lease ends in 30 days. Utilities disconnected by Friday. You're on your own now. Good luck. I left the note on the counter next to the coffee maker, where I knew she'd see it first thing in the morning, grabbed my things, and walked out. Eric was waiting by the car. He took one look at my face and didn't ask questions. He just opened the trunk, helped me load everything in, and we drove away. As we turned onto the main road, I saw Miranda's car coming from the opposite direction. Our eyes met for just a second through the windshields. Her face changed instantly. Confusion, then realization, then panic. She hit the brakes hard, tried to turn around in the middle of the street, but traffic was too heavy. Cars honked. Someone yelled. I watched her in the rearview mirror, frantically trying to maneuver, her face twisted in desperation, and then she disappeared from view. Good. Let her panic. Let her wonder what I'd taken, what I knew, what I was planning. For the first time since I'd walked into that bedroom, I felt something other than pain. I felt power. Eric glanced over at me as we merged onto the highway. You all right? Yeah, I said, surprised to find that I meant it. I'm all right. Back at Eric's place, I sat at the kitchen table and finally turned my phone back on. The screen lit up like a fireworks display. 38 missed calls, 52 text messages, 10 voicemails. Most were from Miranda, some from Brett, a few from numbers I didn't recognize, probably her parents or her sister trying to get involved in something that wasn't their business. I ignored the calls and voicemails. I wasn't ready to hear their voices yet. Wasn't ready for the tears or the excuses or whatever performance they'd rehearsed. But the texts, those I needed to read. I needed to understand what story they were trying to spin, what lies they were preparing to tell everyone we knew. Miranda's messages started off angry. Where are you? Answer your phone. This is ridiculous. You can't just disappear like this. Then they shifted to panic as she realized what I'd done. The bank accounts are frozen. You cut off the utilities? How am I supposed to pay rent? This is financial abuse. Financial abuse. That phrase made me laugh, a bitter sound that surprised even me. I'd spent 22 years providing for her, building a life for us, making sure she never had to worry about money. And now that I'd stopped funding her lifestyle, stopped paying for her to live comfortably while she destroyed our marriage, I was abusing her. Then the tone changed to desperation. Brandon, please. We need to talk about this like adults. I made a mistake, but don't throw away 22 years over one mistake. Think about Owen. Think about our son. Don't do this to our family. Our family. She kept using those words like they still meant something, like she hadn't already destroyed our family the moment she invited Brett into our bed. Brett's messages were different, more calculated, more manipulative. Man, I know you're hurting. I would be too if I were in your shoes. But let's talk this through. We've been friends for 20 years. Don't let this destroy everything we built together. Then, more aggressive. You're making a huge mistake. Think about the business. Think about our clients. Think about the 15 people who depend on us for their livelihoods. Don't do something you'll regret just because you're angry. Just because I'm angry. Like anger was an unreasonable response to finding your wife and best friend together. Like I was supposed to be calm and rational about this. Then I saw messages from people I hadn't expected. Claire, Miranda's younger sister, sent 3 texts. Brandon, I don't know what happened, but Miranda's a mess. Please call her. Whatever it is, you guys can work it out. You always do. My friend Tom from the gym wrote, "Hey man, heard things are rough. Let me know if you need anything. Beer's on me whenever you're ready." Even my mother-in-law, Patricia, sent a message. "Brandon, dear, Miranda told me you had an argument. These things happen in marriage. Don't let pride get in the way of forgiveness. Come home and talk to her." An argument. That's what Miranda was telling people. Not that she'd cheated, not that she betrayed me, just that we'd had an argument. She was already controlling the narrative, already playing the victim. I needed proof. Not for me. I'd seen enough with my own eyes. But for when this inevitably went public, when people started taking sides, when Miranda tried to paint me as the villain who abandoned his wife over nothing, I needed documentation that showed the truth. I opened my laptop and started compiling everything. Bank statements showing Miranda's excessive spending over the last 6 months. Credit card bills with charges from hotels in Dallas I'd never stayed at, restaurants I'd never been to, a jewelry purchase 3 weeks ago that I'd never received, the pawn shop receipt for my grandmother's ring, carefully photographed and saved, screenshots of every text message, every missed call, every piece of evidence that showed the timeline of events. Then I did something I've been putting off. I called a lawyer. The next morning, I woke up to a message from someone I didn't expect. Lila Brooks. She'd been friends with Miranda since college. One of those friendships that had lasted through marriages, kids, cross-country moves. I'd always liked Lila. She was straightforward, didn't tolerate nonsense, had a way of seeing through people's facades. But she was Miranda's friend, not mine, so I was surprised to see her name on my screen. Her message was brief. "Brandon, I heard what happened. I think you should know something. Can we talk? It's important." I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring. "Brandon," Lila said, her voice careful, measured. I wasn't sure if I should reach out, but I couldn't stay silent anymore. Not after what Miranda's been telling people. "What is she saying?" I asked, already knowing it wouldn't be the truth. "That you overreacted to a misunderstanding," Lila said. "That you walked in on something that looked bad but wasn't what it seemed. That you've been distant and cold for months, and she thinks you're having some kind of breakdown." I felt my jaw tighten. "And you're calling to tell me you believe her?" "No," Lila said firmly. "I'm calling to tell you she's lying. Brandon, this wasn't a one-time thing. I've known for months." My grip tightened on the phone. "How long?" "At least 4 months that I know for certain," Lila replied. "Maybe longer. I saw them together at a restaurant in Fort Worth back in February. They were holding hands across the table, kissing, acting like a couple. I confronted Miranda about it the next day, and she broke down, admitted everything, begged me not to tell you. She said it was complicated, that she was confused about her feelings, that she'd end it soon. Obviously, she didn't. For months. Minimum. Which meant every late night at the office, every business trip she'd claimed Brett needed help with, every weekend she'd said she was meeting girlfriends for brunch, It was all lies. Every time I kissed her goodbye in the morning, every time I told her I loved her, she was already betraying me. Why are you telling me now? I asked, my voice rough. Because you deserve to know the truth, Lila said. And because Miranda called me yesterday, trying to get me to vouch for her, to tell you it was just a one-time mistake, to help her convince you to forgive her. I can't do that, Brandon. I won't lie for her. Not about this. Thank you, I said quietly, for being honest with me. There's something else you need to know, Lila continued, her voice dropping. Brett's married. His wife, Emma, she's 7 months pregnant with their first child. I don't know if she knows about the affair, but she deserves to. My blood ran cold. Brett was married. I'd known that, obviously. I'd been at their wedding 5 years ago, stood up there as his best man, toasted to their future. But I hadn't thought about Emma in all of this, hadn't considered that she was another victim in this mess. And she was pregnant, carrying Brett's child while he destroyed their marriage. I don't know if she knows, I said. But you're right. She should. I have her number if you want it, Lila offered. I hesitated. Did I want to be the one to tell Emma? Did I want to be responsible for destroying her world the way mine had been destroyed? Send it to me, I said finally. Because if someone had told me earlier, if someone had warned me before I'd walked in on them, maybe I could have protected myself better. Maybe it would have hurt less. 20 minutes later, I was staring at Emma Kingsley's contact information, trying to find the right words to tell a pregnant woman that her husband had been cheating on her with my wife. I stared at Emma Kingsley's phone number for 20 minutes before I finally worked up the courage to type out a message. My hand was shaking slightly as I wrote, deleted, and rewrote the words. How do you tell a pregnant woman that her husband has been unfaithful? How do you deliver news that will shatter her world? Finally, I settled on simple and direct. Emma, this is Brandon Hayes, Brett's business partner. I'm sorry to reach out like this, but there's something you need to know. Brett has been having an affair with my wife, Miranda. I found them together in my home 3 days ago. I thought you deserved to know the truth. If you need proof or want to talk, I'm here. I hit send before I could second-guess myself, then set the phone down on Eric's kitchen table and waited. My heart was pounding. Part of me hoped she wouldn't respond, that maybe she already knew, that maybe this would somehow be easier than I imagined. 3 minutes later, my phone buzzed. I knew something was wrong. Emma wrote back. He's been distant for months, working late all the time, taking calls in the other room. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, that it was just work stress. Thank you for telling me. I need to see proof. I sent her everything I had. Screenshots of text messages I'd found on Miranda's iPad that she'd forgotten to delete. Credit card statements showing hotel charges and restaurant bills from dates I'd been out of town. Photos I'd taken of the pawn shop receipt for my grandmother's ring. I laid it all out. Every piece of evidence that proved this wasn't a misunderstanding or a one-time mistake. Emma's response came 30 minutes later. I'm 7 months pregnant with his child. 7 months. And he was doing this the entire time. My chest tightened reading those words. I'm so sorry, Emma. You didn't deserve this. Neither of us did. No, we didn't, she replied. But they're not going to get away with it. I'm calling a lawyer tomorrow morning, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man Brett Kingsley really is. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Emma. I did something last night. I thought you should know. My stomach dropped. What did you do? I went to the office, Emma wrote. I have keys because Brett always loses his. I went through his desk, his computer, his files. Brandon, this affair has been going on for at least 6 months. I found emails, hotel reservations, everything. They've been using company credit cards to pay for their hotel rooms. That's embezzlement. 6 months. Even longer than Lila had thought. Which meant every business trip, every late night at the office, every time Brett had said he was working on a big client proposal, he'd been with Miranda instead. I took photos of everything, Emma continued, and I sent them to your company's board of directors this morning. Brett's been stealing from the business to fund his affair. That violates his fiduciary duty as a partner. They'll have to investigate. I sat back in my chair, processing this. Emma had just weaponized the corporate structure against them. If the board launched an investigation and found evidence of embezzlement, Brett could be removed as a partner. He could lose everything. Thank you, I typed back, for doing what I should have thought to do. We're in this together now, Emma replied. They destroyed our families. Let's make sure they face real consequences. I called my lawyer, Patricia Holt, and explained everything Emma had found. She was silent for a long moment after I finished. Mr. Hayes, Patricia said finally, her voice sharp and professional. If what Emma found is accurate, your wife and your business partner have been committing fraud. This changes everything. We're not just talking about a divorce anymore. We're talking about potential criminal charges. 2 days later, I received a call from Richard Hoffman, the chairman of our company's board of directors. I'd known Richard for 15 years, respected him, trusted his judgment. His voice was grave when he spoke. Brandon, we need to talk about the allegations Emma Kingsley brought to our attention, Richard said. The board has been reviewing the evidence she provided. I'm afraid it's worse than we thought. How much worse? I asked, already bracing myself. Brett has been using company credit cards to pay for hotel rooms, dinners, and travel for at least 8 months, Richard said. We're talking about $73,000 in fraudulent charges. He's been billing them as client entertainment expenses, but we've contacted the clients he claimed to be entertaining. None of them were ever at those locations. $73,000. Brett had stolen $73,000 from our company, from our employees, from the business we'd built together, just to fund his affair with my wife. There's more, Richard continued. Miranda, as the company's financial controller, approved every single one of those fraudulent expense reports. She signed off on them, processed the reimbursements, and never flagged them as suspicious. Either she was complicit in the theft, or she was criminally negligent in her duties. My hands clenched into fists. Miranda hadn't just cheated on me. She'd helped Brett steal from our company, helped him cover his tracks, helped him destroy everything we'd worked for. What happens now? I asked. The board is meeting tomorrow morning, Richard said. We're going to vote on whether to terminate Brett's partnership and refer the matter to law enforcement. We're also going to terminate Miranda's employment effective immediately. I'm sorry, Brandon. I know this is your wife, but we can't ignore theft on this scale. She's not my wife anymore, I said quietly. Do what needs to be done. That afternoon, I got a message from Owen. Dad, what's going on? Mom called me crying. She said she lost her job. She said you're trying to destroy her. Is that true? I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and called my son. It was time he knew the truth. Owen, I said when he answered, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. Dad, you're scaring me. Owen replied, his voice shaking slightly. Your mother had an affair with Brett. I said, the words coming out flat and emotionless. I found them together 3 days ago. I walked in on them in our bedroom. That's why I left. That's why I cut off financial support. And now we've discovered that Brett has been stealing from the company, and your mother helped him cover it up. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then I heard Owen take a shaky breath. Uncle Brett, Owen said finally, his voice breaking. My godfather. Yes, I said. And Mom knew? She helped him. Yes. Another long silence. Then Owen spoke again, his voice harder now, colder. I need some time to process this, Dad. But I believe you. Mom's been acting weird for months. I thought it was just stress from work, but now it makes sense. Take all the time you need, I said. I'm here when you're ready to talk. After we hung up, I sat in Eric's living room and stared at the wall. My son knew the truth now. My business partner was about to lose everything. My wife was about to face criminal charges. The board meeting happened on a Thursday morning. I wasn't invited to attend, which was probably for the best. I would have said things I couldn't take back, done things that wouldn't have helped anyone. Instead, I sat in Eric's living room, waiting for the call that would tell me what decision they'd made. Richard Hoffman called me at 11:30. His voice was somber but firm. Brandon, the board has voted unanimously to terminate Brett Kingsley's partnership effective immediately, Richard said. He's been removed from all company accounts, stripped of his access credentials, and escorted from the building. We're also referring the matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. What about Miranda? Her employment was terminated this morning, Richard said. We've also filed a civil lawsuit against both of them to recover the stolen funds. Our lawyers believe we have a strong case. Thank you, Richard, I said quietly, for handling this the right way. You built this company, Brandon, Richard replied. You and your integrity. We're not going to let two people destroy what you've worked so hard to create. That afternoon, I met with my lawyer, Patricia Holt, in her downtown Dallas office. She had news. Miranda's attorney contacted me this morning, Patricia said, sliding a folder across her desk. She wants to negotiate a settlement. She's offering to sign the divorce papers without contesting anything if you agree not to press criminal charges. No, I said immediately. She doesn't get to buy her way out of this. Patricia nodded, like she'd expected that answer. I thought you'd say that. Here's what I recommend. We proceed with the divorce. We let the company pursue its civil case, and we let the district attorney decide whether to file criminal charges. You focus on rebuilding your life. What about the ring? I asked. My grandmother's ring. Patricia pulled out another document. I've already contacted the pawn shop. They still have it. The redemption period hasn't expired yet. I can have someone pick it up today if you want. Yes, I said. I want it back. 2 days later, I was sitting in that same pawn shop, holding my grandmother's sapphire ring in my hand. The jeweler had cleaned it, and it sparkled under the fluorescent lights like it hadn't been betrayed and sold for $450. You're lucky, the clerk said. Another week, and it would have been sold. Lucky. I almost laughed at that word. But as I walked out of that pawn shop with the ring safely in my pocket, I realized maybe I was lucky. Lucky to have found out when I did. Lucky to have friends like Eric who gave me a place to stay without asking questions. Lucky to have a son who believed in me. Lucky to have escaped a marriage that had been built on lies. That night, Emma Kingsley called me. I wanted you to know, Emma said, her voice stronger than I'd heard it before. Brett came by the house today to get his things. He tried to apologize, tried to explain. I told him the only thing I wanted from him was a divorce and child support. He's not going to be part of this baby's life. Not after what he did. I'm sorry, Emma, I said. You and your baby deserved better. So did you, Emma replied. But we're going to be okay, Brandon. Both of us. We're stronger than they ever gave us credit for. She was right. I was already stronger than I'd been a week ago. Clearer. More focused. And for the first time since I'd walked into that bedroom, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was going to survive this. For months later, I stood in the empty living room of my new apartment in uptown Dallas. It was smaller than the house I'd shared with Miranda, but it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every towel had been chosen by me, for me. No compromises, no shared decisions. Just my space, my rules, my life. Owen came by that afternoon and helped me unpack the last few boxes. He'd been staying with me on weekends, coming home from Texas A&M whenever he could. Our relationship had grown stronger in ways I never expected. The divorce had hurt him, I knew that, but it had also shown him that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't value you. Dad, where do you want this? Owen asked, holding up a framed photo of the two of us from his high school graduation. On the bookshelf, I said, right in the center. Owen placed it carefully, then stepped back to look at it. Have you heard from Mom lately? No, I said. Have you? She calls sometimes, Owen admitted. Tries to explain, tries to justify what she did. I don't really want to hear it. I told her I needed space. That's fair, I said. You don't owe her forgiveness just because she's your mother. The divorce had been finalized 2 weeks ago. Miranda had ultimately signed the papers without contesting anything, probably because her lawyer told her she had no case. She'd walked away with almost nothing. No alimony, no share of the business, no claim to any of our assets. The prenup we'd signed 22 years ago had protected me, and her infidelity had voided any claim she might have had. Brett had fared even worse. The district attorney had filed criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud. He was facing up to 5 years in prison. His wife Emma had filed for divorce and sole custody of their daughter, who'd been born 6 weeks ago. I'd sent Emma flowers at the hospital with a card that said simply, "Congratulations. You're going to be an amazing mother." The business was thriving without them. I'd brought in a new partner, someone I'd known professionally for years but never worked with closely. We were landing new clients, expanding into Houston and San Antonio, building something even stronger than before. My phone buzzed. A text from Eric. "Dinner tonight? There's someone I want you to meet." I smiled. Eric had been not so subtly trying to set me up with various women for the past month. I wasn't ready yet. Not really, but I appreciated his efforts. Sure, I typed back, but no promises. I looked around my new apartment, at the life I was building from scratch. It wasn't the life I planned. It wasn't the future I'd imagined when I designed that sapphire ring for Miranda. But it was mine, and it was honest, and it was good. Owen put his hand on my shoulder. "You okay, Dad?" Yeah, I said, and I meant it. I'm okay. I'd learned something important over the past 4 months. Betrayal doesn't have to destroy you. It can reveal who you really are, what you're really made of. And sometimes, losing everything is the first step to finding yourself. The ring sat in a safe deposit box now, waiting for the right person. Someone who would cherish it the way my grandmother had. Someone who would value loyalty and honesty and love. Someone who deserved it. That person wasn't Miranda. But someday, when I was ready, that person would come along. And I'd be ready for them.